So, what if I told you that the best guide for today's totally chaotic stock market wasn't some modern analyst, but a strategist from the 4th century BCE? I know, it sounds kind of crazy, right? But stick with me here, because the wisdom of ancient statecraft might just be the most powerful investing tool you've never even thought of.
We're pulling this idea from the book Chanakya, A Perspective to Investing in Shares. And its premise is honestly pretty radical, that the exact same strategies used to build an ancient empire can be used to build a powerful investment portfolio today. So let's dive in and see how that's even possible.
And this really is the big question, isn't it? I mean, how can a guy from an era of swords and sandals have anything useful to say about stocks and algorithms? On the face of it, it seems impossible. But the connection is surprisingly direct, and it all starts with the man himself.
Well, the answer really comes down to who Chanakya was. See, he wasn't just some philosopher sitting in a room thinking deep thoughts. He was a master strategist, the guy who helped build the massive Mauryan Empire. His principles weren't just abstract theories. They were a real-world playbook for gaining power, staying in control, and building something that lasts.
Okay, so that brings us to the central metaphor of this entire philosophy. It's a big one, so get this. You are not just a player in the market. You are the ruler, the king or queen. And your investment portfolio? Well, that's your kingdom.
And this is where it all starts to click. The core idea is that the qualities of a great ruler, we're talking discipline, foresight, emotional control, and strategic planning, are the exact same qualities you need to be a great investor. The skills are literally one and the same.
You know, just that one little shift in how you see things, it changes everything. Suddenly, your goal isn't about chasing some hot stock tip for a quick buck. It's about principled wealth creation, methodically building a financial empire that's designed to last for generations.
So if you're a ruler, what does that make the market's ups and downs? It's not just noise, it's conflict. It's a battlefield. So how do you win? Well, we're going to look at Chanakya's key strategies for running a state and see how they become a battle plan for this financial war.
All right, first up, we have Niti. Think of this as your intelligence gathering. A king would never, ever go to war without knowing everything about the enemy's strength, the terrain, and the character of their leader. For an investor, Niti means you've got to do your homework. You have to truly understand the soul of what you're buying.
So what does Niti actually look like for you? Well, it's definitely not just staring at the ticker symbol all day. It means doing the real fundamental research. It means digging into the business model, getting to know its leadership, and understanding its long-term vision. It boils down to one simple rule: know what you own and why you own it. Okay, next up is a big one: risk management. A wise king never risks his entire kingdom on a single battle. He never exposes his whole army to one threat on one flank. It's all about protecting what you have, diversifying your defenses, and always having a backup plan.
So how do you fortify your financial kingdom? Simple. You diversify your portfolio so that one bad bet can't wipe you out. You avoid taking on dangerous debt. That's a huge one. And you mentally prepare for downturns. You see them not as a reason to panic, but as a siege to be calmly and strategically weathered.
And this brings us to what might be the single most crucial tenet, captured perfectly in this quote. A leader, or an investor who's ruled by their emotions, is absolutely destined to fail. Why? Because emotion is the enemy of strategy. Always.
And this creates such a stark contrast in behavior. You see it all the time. The herd, they panic and sell at the very bottom. Then they get euphoric and buy at the absolute top. But the ruler? They practice royal discipline. They stay calm during a crash, maybe even see an opportunity. And they stay skeptical during a boom, avoiding the madness. They think for themselves.
Okay, so we've covered the defensive moves. But what about offense? I mean, this isn't just about surviving the market. It's about building a lasting legacy. It's about thoughtfully expanding your kingdom over time.
And let's be super clear here. This strategy is the opposite of speculating. You are not a gambler placing a bet. You are a monarch forming a long-term alliance with a strong neighboring kingdom, which in this case just happens to be a high-quality company. So, what's the actual game plan for building this kingdom? It's really a four-step process. First, you identify strong allies, companies with real intrinsic value. Second, you verify their character, making sure they have ethical leadership. Third, you form the alliance by buying in at a fair price. And finally, you nurture that alliance for decades. Let's talk about that first step, intrinsic value. Now, that might sound complicated, but it's not.
It just means you're looking past the daily stock price to assess the true strength of a company, its assets, its earning power, its place in the market. In other words, you're judging the real quality of your potential ally.
And just as crucial is making sure your allies, your companies, are actually trustworthy. Chanakya knew a king is only as strong as his allies. An alliance with a corrupt kingdom is doomed to fail. And the exact same thing goes for investing. Partnering with unethical management is just a recipe for disaster.
When you really boil it all down, this whole philosophy can be summarized by this one powerful idea. Investing gets completely reframed. It becomes less of a complex math problem and more of a test of your own character, your discipline, your patience, and your strategic mind.
So you might be wondering, who is this really for? And honestly, the cool thing is that this mindset works for almost everyone. If you're a beginner, it gives you an incredibly solid foundation. If you're an experienced trader, it offers a powerful new lens to rethink your strategy. And really, it's for anyone who just finds it fascinating to apply ancient wisdom to solve modern problems.
So after all of this, after exploring Chanakya's perspective, it all comes down to one question you have to ask yourself. When you invest, are you just gambling? Are you just playing the market's short-term games? Or are you methodically, patiently, and strategically building a kingdom that will last?